Let's go over to Iraq now, where it is the fifth day of anti-government protests and the situation seems to be spiraling out of control. The death toll is nearing 100 and more than 4,000 people have been injured in the violence. Reports indicate that the police have been firing live ammunition at the protesters in a bid to disperse them, but it seems to be having a little impact as thousands continue to flood onto the streets of major cities in Iraq. In Baghdad, the curfew was lifted after a day of pretty much less calm. But fresh reports indicate that violence has now started to escalate. Meanwhile, the UN stepped into the situation and condemned the violence. The UN's head of the assistance mission for Iraq called upon all parties to pause and reflect and to hold people accountable for the reported deaths. On the political front, Iraq Parliament Speaker Mohammed Al-Halbousi met with some protest representatives and promised to introduce measures to combat corruption and to revive the country's flailing economy. An emergency parliament session was scheduled for Saturday ended up being called off as most of the legislators failed to show up for the meeting. The protests have been most fierce in the capital of Baghdad, but now they seem to be spreading to the cities in southern Iraq. Under threat have been, in fact, several television stations and government buildings which have been vandalized and even set on fire. And we earlier spoke to Dr. Wail Awad, the political analyst from New Delhi, on the situation in Iraq.
Yes, actually this is a major event have taking place in Iraq, and most of the Iraqi people have no leader in the street who has been taking their own demand into their own hands, and they have been demonstrating against corruptions, against unemployment, against shortage of water and electricity, and also the malpractice of the government, where there is no accountability against any officers in this government who has not been subjected to any kind of a checking and finding out about the corruption in Iraq. So therefore this movement is really was gaining ground till some of the religious leaders and the prime ministers and the parliament met, and they have decided that they will succumb to the pressures of the street and come back to meet the demand of the people without jeopardizing the country. And in fact, many of the security officers in Iraq have been captured, those who were shooting directly on the head of the demonstrators, and also some of the security forces lost their life because we don't know who was those snipers who've been shooting, and the government now taking a stern action against them. But nevertheless, the people of the street at this moment, we are getting the news from Baghdad that it is very tense, but there is no visible demonstration at this moment, and the government trying to remove all the barricades and all the burning tires from the street and trying to open the roads for the public. And I think the government has to meet the demand of the people in the street.